I already have some questions that have come up. Let's plunge right in. The first question from Natasha Sharma is, could you tell us more about the Congress Party's manifesto process this time and the experience thus far? Well, this has been a most amazing experience both for me and for the Congress Party. The Congress President Rahul Gandhi gave us a mandate, said, look, we have a manifesto committee and this committee needs to go out and listen to the voice of every Indian. So we organized ourselves into 20 different portfolios, sent members of the committee to different corners of the country, and organized numerous consultations. We've so far finished 120 public consultations on a range of topics. It could be on health, on education, on issues affecting the scheduled castes and tribes, on other backward classes. It could be issues related to urbanization and environment, issues related to fishermen, to Panchayati Raj, to women, a whole bunch of topics that we were engaged with. And these public consultations have been fantastic. People have been very, very happy with the sincerity of the engagement which the Congress has brought to the table. Along with this, we also did about 53 expert consultations in smaller groups, off the record, and these were, overall, we've covered 24 states, 3 union territories, about 50 odd cities, and a few villages as well. The interesting highlight in some ways was that we also did a consultation in Dubai last weekend where we reached out to the global NRI community, and the Indian Overseas Congress, led by Sam Pitroda, organized a 2-day very, very intense interaction where we also asked about what we can do for NRIs and how we can learn from their successes. So overall, the research department, we've helped orchestrate this entire process. We've digested and organized the inputs that we've received, and this material has gone to the Manifesto Committee, chaired by Sri P. Chidambaram. I'm the convener, and together the committee is now coming out with a draft of the manifesto, which we will share with the Congress leadership. That process that we brought to the table has been energizing, has been very rewarding, and very insightful. I think that kind of engagement would not have been possible without the push that our Congress President Rahul Gandhi gave, and that engagement has been noticed by every corner of the country. People are very, very happy with the process. We've also collected information online through the website, through change.org petitions, through email, through a WhatsApp number. It's been a very fulfilling and inclusive process. The next question, how has your prior work experience as an academician helped in your current role as a Member of Parliament? This comes from Harmeet Jolly. Well, for those of you who don't know, I used to be a professor at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, before I was elected to Parliament, and before that, actually, for many years, a professor in the United States. What was I a professor of? I was teaching public policy. So what I used to preach, I now get to practice. And it's been tremendous in terms of preparation, because in Parliament, the kind of issues that we deal with, the kind of knowledge and understanding and analysis that we need to bring to the table, this is something that my academic background has been able to really help me with. And one thing I can tell you, policy and politics is not just about slogans or about ideas alone. It's about the nitty-gritty, about understanding how the world works, how various things like the economy and the global markets, how people and societies, lots of things come together and help us figure out what will work, what will make an impact, what will transform India's future. So what I have found is that not just my academic background, but the kind of colleagues that I have, this is really, India is well served by having such excellent parliamentarians out there, and my experience as a teacher, as a professor, has been a great foundation for all this. Well, for something lighter, Deepak Virat Purohit asks me, what's my guilty pleasure? You really want me to reveal this? Well, I can tell you that in Bengaluru, I come from the southern part of Bengaluru, And it's a place where you get the best masala dosas, as we call them, in the country, in the world. And so my guilty pleasure is to go to a place called Vidyarthi Bhavan and feast on a heavenly masala dosa as often as I can. I am trying to reduce as well. Anyway, off we go to the next serious question. Other than minimum income guarantee and farm loan waivers, what are some of the policies which are the need of the hour, which the Congress is considering? This question comes from Nilima Shah. Well, the Congress party is really thinking about what is the role of government. And we believe that the role of government is to ensure that a strong social safety net is provided to people such that nobody should be, should find education, healthcare, all the necessities of life inaccessible. So we really believe that government must set up this social safety net, that for access to all, for that level playing field, it's important that government delivery of education, government delivery of healthcare, investment in our human capital, that is really a top priority. We operate in a very complex, mixed economy. There is a private sector, there is a public sector. The private sector rewards and can be accessed by those who have wealth and resources. But what about the rest? If you look at our policies and programs, including minimum income guarantee, these are aimed at ensuring that nobody falls behind. And that is the general thrust of Congress policies, and that's where we are really going ahead. But overall, with regard to farm loans, that is a one-time measure that we are considering. The larger agenda with regard to agriculture is to ensure that farmers retain more value, that they are able to diversify into horticulture and animal husbandry, dairying, and numerous other income-generating mechanisms, that they retain more value when it comes to selling their products, that we help them cope with risk and the ups and downs of markets. There's a lot of interventions, structural changes, infrastructural investments that we need to bring in, and we are on that job. The next question comes from Shah Rukh, who asked me, if you could travel in time, who is the one politician you would like to meet? Well. How about Lord Krishna, the ultimate politician, the ultimate strategist? It would be wonderful not to be in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but even otherwise, maybe to be sitting at the feet of Lord Krishna and listening to his insights into how to go about doing the right thing and to do the right thing successfully. Gautam Parashar says that he's from Rajasthan, and a quarter of humanity live in areas where water is very scarce. What can be done about it? Well, the stories I've heard from Rajasthan, from the experience of Rajendra Singh and people who worked on water conservation over the years, is that even in arid regions like Rajasthan, interventions can be brought about that help conserve water. You have stories, you have those wonderful architectural marvels, the bowls that essentially show how you can access groundwater and underground sources. There must be other methods, and certainly this is a real challenge. Water is as much a fundamental right as a right to water as anything else, and we have to make sure that we find ways to harvest the water that we can access, and then, of course, conserve and carefully manage groundwater so that we sustain our life and livelihood in these challenging environments. Vidya Raj asks me, what are some of the major concerns that have come up from the people which the Congress is looking to address in the manifesto? There are a range, and half an hour is hardly enough time to cover them. See, if you just think about who all we've been talking to, right? When we talk to people in the micro, small, and medium enterprise sector, the business people talk about how they're hurting from demonetization, from the hasty implementation of GST, how they find it difficult to access credit, how they need so much more in terms of infrastructural support, how they need so much more in terms of credit and regulatory forbearance that will enable them to cope with the ups and downs of markets. So that's just one example. When it comes to education, there are numerous suggestions that have come on how to not just improve access, but which we've done fairly well in terms of primary education, but we need to ensure higher enrollments in college and in graduate studies. We need to develop a culture of innovation. There's just so much that we need to do, both on the access side, that is the quantity, as well as on the quality of education. We've got a huge talent pool in this country. We need to tap that. And that is part of the government's responsibility to change the process by which we work with the larger education system. We can be world beaters. We can be, give Harvard and Oxford a run for their money. And I think under a Congress regime, we'll actually do that soon. If you could ask Modi ji one question, what would it be? Asked Rutika Kondekar. Oh my God, this is, when are you going to stop lying, Modi ji? I don't know what to say. Tell the truth one of these days. It would be nice. Yeah. So that would be good. Well, continue. Nitendra Banerjee asks, Narendra Modi, Amit Shah and other BJP leaders have been going about election rallies as usual post the terror attack in Pulwama or when our Air Force pilot was in custody of Pakistan. What are your thoughts on this? Well, see, when our country is facing a national security crisis, as our Congress President Rahul Gandhi announced in his press conference, we are all together as one nation. We are together backing our security forces and our nation's government in tackling these challenges to national security. That's something that we've stood up and proclaimed, and we've been living up to our word. But unfortunately, right when these crises have erupted, you saw the Prime Minister addressing party rallies, going and turning solemn moments like the National War Memorial inauguration into a political speech, attacking previous governments without basis. You saw this notion that we need to rise above petty politics and think about the country. Both Prime Minister Modi and President of the BJP Amit Shah immediately threw that out of the window. This is something that we must condemn, and I do hope that some sense dawns on these people and that they realize that India and our soldiers and our security matters more than their petty political gains. My former Chief Minister from Karnataka, Mr. Yediyurappa, has sort of let the cat out of the bag when he said that, oh, now that all this has happened, we're going to win more seats. Okay? So immediately people start questioning, is there political gain that the BJP is trying to get from all these national security challenges that the country is facing? Are they thinking about party first, or are they thinking about country first? That's the real challenge before us. I do hope wisdom dawns on these BJP leadership. Bilal Ahmed asks, will the manifesto also address concerns around national security that have been raised post the recent Pulwama attack? Well, it's not just the Pulwama attack. There have been Gurdaspur, Pathankot, Uri. I mean, there have been a lot of national security crises and lapses during the NDA's term. Now, contrast this with if you just take Kashmir, contrast this with the period of the UPA. Normalcy had returned to Kashmir. You could see that the people's engagement was at a high, electoral participation was extremely competitive, and people started to believe and hope in a very, very positive manner. I used to be a director on the central board of the RBI, and we actually had a central board meeting in Srinagar, I think in 2013 or so. So that was the kind of normalcy that the UPA under Dr. Manmohan Singh's government had been able to bring to a region where there has been a challenge to national security. But in the 5 years of NDA, you've seen a decline. And you've seen that there have been mistakes made, like the large convoy. I mean, so many questions have been raised. I don't want to question that right now, but I do want to point out that national security is a major priority for us, and we will focus on ensuring that our CRPF, whether any aspect of national security, that we modernize, that we invest in our forces, that we boost their morale, we ensure that we have the intelligence and the capability to thwart any challenge to our national security. Going forward, we have a detailed plan. I'm very happy to say that Major General Huda, who led the surgical strike in 2016, he has joined us as he's going to guide us on a national security agenda going forward, and we're looking forward to the roadmap that we are going to work out together under General Huda's leadership. Srinivasan Venkatesh asks how the Congress leadership will effectively expose Narendra Modi's lies and loot before the common people of India. Well, it's not about how we're going to do it in the future. We have been doing this from day one. One of the central examples of both lies and loot is the Rafale scam. We have seen the Congress president has been at the forefront of raising this issue and pointing out that while we have no problem with the Rafale as a weapon of choice, as a fighter of choice, we want to know what the process was. We want to know why, when it comes to such a crucial issue of defense, that the Prime Minister chose to favor an inexperienced and possibly incompetent and insolvent Anil Ambani at the cost of India's national security. So that is just one example of the kind of lies and loot that we will place before the country. And then, as head of the research department of the Congress Party, we've been tracking from day one the failures of this government, the U-turns of this government, the fact that they made promises galore before 2014 and have not fulfilled even one of them. Congress President Rahul Gandhi yesterday pointed out in Maharashtra, I think, where he said, look, you have a Congress party which fulfills every promise that it makes. From day one or in the very first week, what promises we made in Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, we have fulfilled. In contrast, we are coming to the end of Prime Minister Modi's historic mandate, and he has wasted that. He has not fulfilled his promises, and he has let the people of India down in a historic manner. I think they will open their eyes and they will send a message at the ballot box in the next few months. I look forward to that change for the sake of India. How highly miscalculated were the policies of demonetization and GST? What's your opinion on the economic situation created by the BJP? Asks Daryl. Demonetization was a surgical strike on the Indian economy. There was no logic to it, and it hurt the people of India, the most vulnerable, those in the unorganized sector who work with cash, those in agriculture who work with cash. None of those people are people who avoid taxes. They're not in the tax bracket. And in this quixotic, really unjustifiable move, Prime Minister Modi inflicted a 2% loss of GDP growth to India's economy. That's about 1.5 lakh crore worth of income that could have been in your pocket and mine that was lost. And that's something that it's taken years for the economy to overcome. GST, they did the midnight drama, trying to have a midnight session of Parliament to celebrate the creation of a unified tax structure. The same tax structure that we had tried to bring in, and Chief Minister Narendra Modi and other BJP chief ministers had very, very bloody-mindedly come in the way of. Well, this tax, for all that drama, was introduced without paying attention to detail, without the systems being in place, without thinking through what rates should be applied to what sector of the economy. And at the end, what we have is a real challenge, because the small industry, the small business, even India's export competitiveness, lots of things were hurt by GST. And again, why? Because somebody wanted to do drama. So that's the real challenge. And today's economic situation, we could have done much better. We coped with the global economic crisis of 2008, and in spite of the fact that the global economy, to which we are very closely intertwined as an economy now, even though we also suffered from global slowdown, we picked up, and we were picking up in such a way that the country's economic growth was tremendous. And that benefit the BJP could have got and used much better. They benefited from low inflation, from low oil prices, but what did they do? They blew their opportunity. They continued to squeeze us of taxes, and the numbers that they give, given the way they've messed with the statistical system, we can't believe them either. So we have no idea what the actual economic situation is. We can only say that you and I can feel that there is no Achedian in the air, and the numbers that they're talking about don't give us that sense of euphoria, that sense of positivity. We neither have good credit coming from the banks, we neither have people borrowing and investing. It's a lost opportunity that costs India tremendously. Ramiz KV asks about what to do about growing petroleum prices and what the Congress party will do to address this issue. We also have an emphasis on diversification of energy sources, but we are, as a nation, a big importer of oil. So if petroleum prices go up beyond a point, we would be affected. We will have various measures in place to deal with this. What shall we say? If you actually look at the current global scenario, it seems that petroleum prices will not go beyond a particular band, because if it goes slightly higher, there are shale oil and other slightly costlier production processes become more viable. So there will be further inflow of crude in the marketplace, at which point there's some cap as far as oil prices are concerned. So, but oil, there could be instability in the Middle East, there could be wars, who knows what. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful with Plan A, Plan B, strategic petroleum reserves, numerous interventions that ensure that we do not get hostage to rising petroleum prices. Who among opposition leaders would you like to give a lecture or a session on history or policy, asks Mohammed Javed. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Modi ji. Why do I say that? Not opposition leader, we are the opposition right now. But the basic point is, Modi ji's grasp of history is very, very tenuous. He seems not to know the contribution of the Congress party in building this country and making it the third largest economy in the world, making it a country where, when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh says we will, we want the world to change its nuclear regime for us at our own terms, and then the world changes. George W. Bush leads the world in changing the rules of the game just to make sure that India and our demands are respected. Prime Minister Modi ji's knowledge of history begins with 2014 when he was elected, and he constantly cooks up stories which have no basis in fact. Okay? Yesterday or day before in Chennai, he made a statement honoring one of our veteran Congress leaders, C. Rajagopalachari, Rajaji, and he said Rajaji wanted to liberalize the economy and that he has done that. Modi ji, 1991, Prime Minister Narasimha Rao of the Congress, Finance Minister Manmohan Singh of the Congress, were the architects of India's liberalization. Maybe you need to read about that as well. Arshad Chowdhury asks, what are some of the rudimentary electoral reforms that India needs right now? Well, I would say that the crucial electoral reform has to do with campaign financing, electoral funding, etc. If you think about it, as a nation, we have yet to come to grips with the costs of democracy. It costs to be a full-time politician, and we need lots and lots of full-time politicians taking on causes and championing causes of people and those who are left behind and ideologies, etc. It costs a lot of money to run a political party. It costs even more amounts of money to run election campaigns and communicate with the 100+ crore citizens of this country. So basically, when you think about all this, where is that money going to come from? Unfortunately, as a nation, we've created a set of laws that are counterproductive, that tend to drive election funding underground, that tend to reward people who play with black money and things like that. And we need to change this process. I myself have written extensively on this. I have proposed and pushed for, and I will, essentially public funding of elections. We all want an improved system, in which case, if electoral, if a cleaner democracy is what we call a public good, it benefits everyone, just like national defense is a public good, then we support national defense through taxes. Similarly, some mechanism like a national election fund needs to come in to prevent the political class, political parties from having any kind of dependence on, on sources that are not necessarily beneficial, right? So we need to have open, transparent electoral funding. We need to be able to say this is what it takes to run a campaign, to run a party. And when we do that, when we come face to face with that reality, we'll be able to wipe out corruption, the kinds of flaws that exist in the larger electoral process. Himanshu Dubey wants to know, what would I have been if not an academician or a politician? Well, when I look in the mirror, maybe a film star. I don't know. No. I don't look in the mirror often enough. But the basic point is, I think I would have been a lawyer. In 1984, when I went to the US to study for my higher studies, in those days getting a US visa was not guaranteed at all. And, so I went to the US Embassy with the consulate in Chennai with the notion of, okay, if I get my visa, I go on for my PhD. If I don't get my visa, I join law college. And, well, I got my visa. And the legal system's loss is academia and politics' gain. Did I say that? Anyway, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just having a great time as both an academician and a politician. Sharafat Ali wants to know about what's happening in my home state of Karnataka. He says there's news of power struggle in the Karnataka coalition. How are the two parties, the Congress and the Janata Dal Secular, looking at coming together to defeat the BJP? Well, Sharafat, the power struggle in Karnataka is not between the coalition partners. It is between a greedy BJP and the democratic process. The BJP got 104 seats in the assembly. They needed 113 to win. And the secular coalition of the Congress and the Janata Dal have managed to keep Karnataka sane, secular, and safe. And the BJP, just like they did in Manipur, just like they did in Goa, just like they did in Arunachal Pradesh, they tried to do in Uttarakhand, are trying to overturn democratic outcomes using any means possible. And they've been caught at it, and their efforts have been thwarted. Both the Congress and the JDS have come together. We're in the midst of seat-sharing negotiations, and once we have come up with that, we will ensure that Karnataka provides a decisive mandate to the secular forces, and that gateway to the south, which Karnataka represented for the BJP, is firmly shut in their faces, and their backward march begins. Karnataka has a long history. We defeated Harshavardhana of Kannauj, a long time ago. We can send these forces back as well. I'm not trying to make this a north or south thing. I'm just pointing out that we have the ability to do that. Then what else? Well, will the Congress make an anti-lynching law if it comes to power? I think it's extraordinarily important to pay attention to security of every Indian citizen and to ensure their freedom to practice their professions, to make choices on their food, on their dress, on their religion, on whom they love, whatever. And those freedoms already exist, and it's important that we protect those freedoms and that we take stern action against anybody who indulges in lynching or any kind of mob violence. Now, this government, the BJP, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has done exactly the opposite. Prime Minister Modi will allow lynching to take place. He will allow people to be assaulted and killed on suspicion of what they have in their fridge. He will allow people to be, Dalits to be assaulted and beaten up in Gujarat. And after all the damage is done and the poison is in the atmosphere, then he will stand up and say, oh, don't do that, it's not a nice thing to do. We will not be that way. We will be proactive and we will prevent these incidents from taking place and provide exemplary punishment to any individual or mob who indulges in attacks on a fellow Indian. From what I can see, am I out of time? More or less? 2 more questions. Where are they? Okay, I can see them. Okay. Do you think India needs to spend more money in research and development? What benefits do you think this can have? Asks Anamika Bhatt. Well, frankly, R&D, investing in innovation, in being at the frontier of science and technology is absolutely crucial for any economy, because we can't be copycats. And we have the brains, we have the capacity, and we have the talent to not just innovate, but to do so at a very low cost. ISRO, in my home city of Bengaluru, is a wonderful example of how R&D can be world-class at a very low cost. And that innovative mindset is something that we need to bring into the larger culture, whether it's in academia, whether it's in industry, whether it's in the overlap of academia and industry. And when we do that, we will be able to be at the forefront of the world's economy. We will be, as it is, there's artificial intelligence, there's machine learning, there's Internet of Things, all kinds of new technologies that are emerging. We may have missed out on the first couple of industrial revolutions, but our software capabilities will enable us to catch up and leapfrog and be at the forefront of these technologies. We have a large country with tremendous diversity. In the life sciences, we can do amazing things. So R&D must be a priority for Indian companies, for the government, and literally for every one of us. We need to be open to innovation. Srujan Reddy asks, which Indian politician would make a good actor or actress, or which actor or actress would make a good politician? Once again, there is only one answer. The Oscar goes to Narendra Modi. Okay, who else has spent the last 5 years continuously acting, continuously dramatizing, and basically going out there and turning everything into some kind of a thespian performance? The basic point is, instead of governing, instead of ensuring that whatever mandate that he had was fulfilled, he's been on election campaigns, he's been constantly out there, making, non-historic based statements and speeches, all with dramatic flourish. The Oscar goes to, or the Filmfare Award, whatever it is right now, goes to Narendra Modi on that front. Well, I think you've all been very, very engaging with a very interesting set of questions. Thank you so much. And please do stay tuned into the Indian National Congress's social media channels to know who's going to be the next guest and to be prepared to engage with the next guest in the next episode of In Conversation With. Thank you. You've been wonderful. Good night.